Welcome and hello. This is a video exercise using HEC HMS, and we are going to be discussing the gridded energy budget Snowmelt method. What I have on the screen here is an introduction to Snowmelt calibration. I'll leave the link to this page in the description. All right, that'll be the first link. If you scroll down here, we're going to get started by downloading the files and then click download. All right, that's downloaded for me, so I can close that. And let's see what the zip file contains. It's Upper Truckee River start, and then inside that, Upper Truckee River. And then here are my project files. These are the startup files that we're going to start the project with before we get started with the actual Snowmelt. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and move this directory to my computer where I want it permanently. And then I can close that folder and then delete the zip file. All right, let's go ahead and open up this project in HMS. Go open, click the browse button. All right, here is our project, Upper Truckee River, and then uppertruckeeriver.hms, and select. All right, what we have is a number of folders up here in our Watershed Explorer. Here's the basin map. This is the Upper Truckee River watershed. I'm going to turn off a couple layers by going Map, View, and then just uncheck a few of these. Okay, looks good. Already included in this model is a control specification, time series data, grid data, and a terrain data file. The basin map itself contains a subbasin, a single subbasin, and then a sink at the north end of the watershed. This subbasin here, if I click on it and then click on the Options tab, I notice that there is an observed flow discharge gauge as well as a snow water equivalent gauge as well. These are two observed data sets that we're going to be comparing our simulation results to. If I go back to the website and then scroll down, we have a table that compares the three different types of gridded snowmelt methods for subbasins and HMS. We're dealing with this third one here, gridded energy budget. And based on all the X's in the table, it is the most involved and requires precipitation and temperature, of course, as well as radiation, wind speed, pressure, and humidity. If I scroll down more, I get an introduction to the project in general. And then our first task is to create a meteorologic model, which the instructions are right here. So just steps 1 through 7 here. The name of this meteorologic model is going to be water year 2017. So I'm just going to copy that to my clipboard. I'm going to go up to Components, Meteorologic Model Manager, and then New. Then I'll paste in that name. And in the Watershed Explorer, we now have a meteorologic model, which we can assign all the different grids to. And the instructions tell us that we should be using a unit system of US customary. The shortwave radiation is going to be gridded shortwave. The longwave radiation is going to be gridded longwave. So as I'm making these selections, we're getting icons up here in the Watershed Explorer. So we're going to revisit that next in just a moment when we go ahead and assign the grids. All right, temperature, just gridded everything basically. Gridded temperature, gridded wind speed. The pressure is going to be gridded pressure. Dew point is gridded humidity. And then evapotranspiration is going to be gridded Hammond. Okay. Oh, also we want to change this replace missing to set to default and click save. Now up here in the Watershed Explorer, we want to click on these icons that represents the methods that we just selected. So for gridded shortwave, we'll click on that. Then down here, the components editor, we want to select the shortwave interpolated grid. Then for long wave, same thing, but select long wave. The precipitation method, oops, I should have changed that to gridded precipitation. That looks better. And now I can click on gridded precipitation icon up here within my MET model. And then the grid I'm going to use is going to be this MRMS corrected grid. The gridded temperature, I'll go ahead and make that selection. Now let's assign the grid for wind speed. That's right here. Gridded pressure, be interpolated pressure, gridded humidity, interpolated humidity. And then gridded Hammond, it's just this coefficient here. That's the one we're going to use. And the evapotranspiration is a grid, but it's based on a few of the other grids. Okay, I'm going to go and click Save. Back to the instructions on the web page. If we scroll down a little further, then we have a option to click on one of three different methods. We're using the gridded energy budget method. That's what this exercise is about. If you're curious about the other two methods here, gridded temperature or gridded hybrid, those are covered in exercises 40 and 41 respectively. All right, so go ahead and click on this option 3. This link here, this page right here will be the second link in the description. And then now we're going to get started on the gridded energy budget details. The gridded energy budget snowmelt method is the most complex snowmelt method in HMS and will likely outperform the other methods. The drawbacks is that it requires a lot of information, some of which may be hard to obtain, and the computation time may take longer. All right, so the first task on this page is to parameterize the gridded energy budget snowmelt method. That's going to involve creating a copy of the existing basin model and then naming this right here, water year 2017 underscore EB. Then we're going to select the snow method and click the snow tab and then insert some data. Here is the existing basin model. I'm going to right click, create copy, and I'm going to paste in a name for that new basin model. So I'm going to collapse the one we're not using, the original. Here's the copy that we just created. Click on the sub-basin here. Now down here in the components editor, I have the different methods, many of which have already been assigned, such as base flow, canopy, floss, transform, and so on. And those values are already in place, so there's no need for us to mess with those. But if I click back on the sub-basin tab, what we do need to select here is our snow method, and we're going to select this gridded energy budget. Now we have a new tab, a snow tab right here in the components editor. So click that. Now we need to define the data. I'm going to make this a little wider. Okay. At this point, I'm just going to be copying some values in from the tutorial. So these are our starting values that we're going to use for our first simulation trial. That is a rain threshold air temperature of 37.4, and then a snow threshold air temperature of 30.2. I'm going to stop talking and just type them all in here though. Okay, so those are the values that were provided. All right, so that looks good. I'm going to save those values. Now create a simulation run and run it. So I'm going to come up to this compute menu, simulation run manager, new. The name we're supposed to give it is this underscore EB suffix for energy budget, and then click next. We're going to select the energy budget basin model that we created that has our snow data associated with it. So click next. Here's the MET model, and then here is the control specification. This particular simulation is going to run for the year 2017 from October 2016 until the middle of August 2017. So about 10 and a half months of simulation at a 1 hour time step. All right, we're ready to run our model. I'm going to select that simulation run from our compute toolbar and then click the simulation. The simulation has computed and we are ready to look at our results. I'm going to click the results tab here in the model in the Watershed Explorer. What I want to do here is, expand the sub-basin. I already have that expanded. And then I want to click on my observed snow water equivalent and then scroll down a little bit more. And then also hold down the control key and then click snow water equivalent. Then I can see a little preview down here, but it's easier to observe the results by clicking on this graph button here. All right, so let me move that over. And I'm going to actually change the colors so it's a little easier to see. So I'm going to go edit, plot properties, and then let's change that to a little bit thicker red. And then for the other series, I'm going to make that blue. And let's make it a solid line and then a little thicker. All right, apply. Okay. All right, we can see that much better, right? What we see here in red is the observed data. That's the target data that we're trying to match using our model and the parameters in the simulation run. Blue is the model output. So as you can see, the model output for this model and these values provide too much snow, but it's not a huge overestimation. It's a fairly close estimation. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close that. While I'm here, I want to click on the sub-basin, right-click, and then View Results Snowmelt Graph. I'm only showing you this because it's a quick way to get some snowmelt graphical results without having to go into the Results tab and click around forever. This bottom plot here is the same plot we were just looking at, observed versus computed snow water equivalent depth. The top plot is the hydrograph, which is the precipitation depth versus time, and then the air temperature is this middle plot right here. All right, another plot I wanted to show was the discharge. I'm going to show the observed discharge versus the computed discharge, and this is for the entire subbasin, which obviously is influenced by the snow water equivalent and the snowpack. So I can right click and then view results, graph. In black is the observed data, and then in blue is the computed data. This is the hydrograph or the outflow from the watershed, and you can see we match up pretty good for the first month or so. But then after that, the blue line is less than the black line, which means we are underestimating the flows. And then later in the water year, we are overestimating the flows, which is consistent with having too much snowpack. All right, the last thing I wanted to show before we move on to our second trial of the simulation is I have to click the subbasin, is the summary table, this button right here. All right, what we see here is a comparison between the computed results with the observed flow, both the discharge and the snow water equivalent. So what I'm looking at here is the Nash-Sutcliffe score and the percent bias score. So I'm going to be recording these values off to the side and then take a look at all of our trial data for these statistical metrics at the end of the video. All right, let's go ahead and make some changes. As I mentioned, we had too much snow on this first trial. So to make an adjustment there, we can do a number of things. What I propose we do is just change this rain threshold air temperature, and let's move it down to, say, 32 degrees Fahrenheit. We could be changing other values too, but just isolating one variable may be easiest for us at the start of this trial and error calibration process. So I'm going to click save and then run the compute once again. All right, so that finished up, and let's check out the results. I'm going to click on the results tab, and just as before, I'm going to select the observed snow water equivalent, hold down control, snow water equivalent. Looks like we're under predicting, but let's bring up the graph once again and modify the colors. Sure enough, yes, the blue is the computation results from our model, and we changed the temperature down too much. So 32 was too much of a change. And it looks like the general shape matches pretty well though. So I propose we go ahead, look at the summary table results, and then change that temperature back up a little bit higher, maybe split the difference between our first and second trials. All right, so I'm going to click on the subbasin, take a peek at that summary table. Here it is. Looks like our numbers are similar as before, but probably off in the other direction, such as this percent bias of negative 20%. All right, back to our snow tab. And then let's see, I say we make it 34.5. All right, I'm going to click save and then run the computation. All right, so that finished up. We're going to check out the results now. As before, I'll click on the results tab and then click on observe snow water equivalent, snow water equivalent. All right, this looks like our best results so far. Let me click on the plot here. And this is definitely our best so far. We had like the blue and red line are basically on top of each other for most of the entire simulation. This is the rising limb here for the early part of winter. And then late February, early March, it looks like there's a little deviation right there. And then later in the water year, as the snow melts, it looks like a very good fit. All right, I'm going to take a look at the summary table. We can also access the summary table by going right click on the subbasin, view results, and summary table. All right, so here's that. 0.995 for a Nash-Sutcliffe is a fantastic score. The Nash-Sutcliffe for the discharge is not as strong of a score, but that's all right. I'm focusing a little bit more on the snow water equivalent for this exercise. Well, I'm not sure how much better I can make it, but I do want to put up the results that the instructions say to use, and that is to go to the snow tab here and move that up a bit. So what they used is 34.0, and then the snow temperature is 31. This new snow is 0.8. Oh, it's already there. And then 0.5 albedo decay is 100 hours. And click save. Let's go ahead and make this our last simulation run. This simulation run is taking longer to run than the other two gridded snowmelt methods that I have experience with, but it's not forever. I would say it's probably about 2 minutes long. All right, so that finished up. One last time looking at those results, we have observed snow water equivalent and snow water equivalent. They look really good once again. All right, I'm not going to even mess with the colors. It looks like a great fit. Let's take a look at that summary table though. All right, again, 0.995, and that percent bias also very small. We can summarize the results for each of the trials by looking at the table here. Over to the right are the input values that changed. And then over to the left here is the number of trials and then the percent bias. I'm tracking the snow water equivalent and the discharge for both percent bias and Nash Sutcliffe. I'm a little bit more interested in the snow water equivalent values though. The second trial had about as good of a score, but remember we under predicted the amount of snow water equivalent. The third trial, we changed that rain threshold to 34.5, which was just right, resulting in our best score. And then the fourth trial, I did this one off camera. I just modified the new snow albedo, and it had a small effect, but it didn't improve the overall correlation there. And then the fifth and final trial is the one we just did. This is using the values from the tutorial, and we got an also very good score for the statistical metrics. The temperature values and the albedo values seem to have the greatest impact on the snow water equivalent after running that simulation. During this exercise, I was more focused on matching snow water equivalent than this discharge because this discharge gauge is also heavily influenced by some of the other parameters in some of the other methods, not just the snow method, such as the loss, the transform, the base flow, and the canopy. And it'd be too much to try to be calibrating all of that in what I'm trying to make is just a short video focused on snowmelt. Well, that was it for this exercise on the gridded energy budget snowmelt method in HEC HMS.